Privacy Online and You. This is a presentation for the mentor classes at St Mary Senior High School, but really it's for anybody to develop better online browsing and security habits. The original was created in May 2018, but has been remade and re-recorded and updated in early 2023. This presentation is available at this tinyurl.com. Please share widely. So what are we going to think about here? Well, we will be discussing a few things. Password security, in particular setting and creating a strong password. Students, people set really garbage passwords. I want to show you how to set up a much better password. Using two-factor authentication, using password managers. Looking at location services, why they're good, why they're not good, what you can do about it. The big five companies, that's Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Apple, and about the data sharing that they do and how you can minimize that data sharing, because it's not necessarily good how much they know about us. Looking at online trackers and tracking cookies and why you should always customize your tracking settings, and making sense of the recent data breaches and what you as a user can do about those. So here are some questions to start. Do you do any or all of these? Do you accept apps or devices tracking your location by default? Yes, I want you to track my location. Or do you accept without looking apps sending you notifications? Just blindly click yes or tap yes. Do you use the same password for all your logins? And as a subsequent of that, is that password something like your name and a number or some other rubbish password? Do you accept all cookies when a web browser asks you for cookie settings? And if you answered yes to any or all of these questions, please keep watching and listening, because this is for you. All right, some light reading. Now, the presentation version of this slide deck is available, as I said, tinyurl.com/privacy-and-you. Here are some articles to read just to prove that I'm not screamingly paranoid. First one is a Sydney Morning Herald article. It is a couple of years old now, but it's still valid. The second one, Think with Google, is a Google-based presentation. And it doesn't necessarily give the most flattering view of Google as a company. Very interesting read. The third one is Tips for Safeguarding Your Privacy, which is a New South Wales government initiative. So it's worth reading. All right, so let's start talking about passwords. We'll go through this quickly, but let's be simple about it. We have learned some dreadful password habits. We have one password for many or all of our accounts. We use simple passwords that are easy to crack. They're based on us or something similar. And let's face it, we have to do better. Passwords are the single point of failure in any online security system. Let's take a look at a bad password. So, old school password. Let's say something about me, Matt72. Tells you how old I am. If I use that as my password, it will take, quickly talk amongst yourselves for half a second, how long to crack? 54 milliseconds, and that's using a rainbow table with a brute force hack. Don't worry about the technology of it. It's a brute force attack, and it is going to be done like that. We need to do better. So let's do it again. This time, oh look, Matt72 with a capital M. Haha! I've added a capital letter. That must be secure. 1 second. Oh dear. All right. I'm going to draw this one must work. Matthew72, longer password, so it's got to be good. 4 days. So it's still no good. All right, let's make things complex. You know, no hacker has ever thought of swapping out an A for an @ symbol or an E for a 3. Plus, it's also a lot longer. Now, this is actually better at 400 years, but it's still also a dreadful password because it is still based around me. And whilst 400 years is better, with the way computers are accelerating, that still could be through a multiple CPU attack brought down significantly and quickly. So, here is an XKCD comic from a few years ago. Basically, if you look at the top left-hand corner, it's saying here is how we are told to set complex passwords. It is, however, complex for humans to remember. It is easy for computers to guess. It is actually not a good password because we're not going to remember it, and computers can hack it really easily. Whereas the bottom one, correct horse battery staple, is for random common words. Far more complex, far harder to hack, and therefore is going to take a lot longer to guess. So the too long didn't read part about it. Let's use a simple passphrase, not a complex password. Let's set one up and take a look. Now, I like music a lot. In fact, I like the Beatles. They're my favourite band. So I will go with a passphrase that I could never forget. John, Paul, George, Ringo. For those of you who are too young, they are the four men who were in the Beatles. So, John, Paul, George, Ringo. Should take next to no time to crack, right? Taking bets, 3, 2, 1, 607 million years. Let's put that into perspective. If today is the end of that 607 million years, we go back 10%, 60 odd million years, and that is when the dinosaurs disappeared. We go back to halfway, 300 million years ago. That's when dinosaurs appeared. Let's go back to 550 million years ago, 90% of the way back, just about. Well, that is something called the Cambrian explosion. Yes, I'm a nerd. That is when the first complex life appeared. So that amoeba that appeared 550 million years ago started trying to hack this password. They're still going, and they're still not getting there. That is a sensational password. Simple to remember, hard to crack. But we can do better. Check what I've done here. I've put the spaces between the words. Now, spaces are, for the most part, valid password characters, so let's use them. By adding the spaces only, we've gone to 2 quintillion years. That's a long time. Let's go orders of magnitude. Each time we go from million to billion, that's 3 orders of magnitude. Billion to trillion, 3 orders of magnitude. So from billions to trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, 369 orders of magnitude. That's a huge number. That is functionally eternity. Great password. Never going to forget it, never going to get cracked. But we can do better still. Why not? This time I'm using capital letters and the ampersand. The ampersand is a special character. That's brilliant. And this is going to be, oh my goodness, octillion years. So quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, again, 9 more orders of magnitude beyond a quintillion. That is eternity. Best password ever. You're never going to forget it. I'm never going to guess it. Now, I can hear what you're saying already. I don't like the Beatles. Well, you should. Pick a band that you like, or a game series you like, or an anime you like, or a clothing brand you like, or a perfume that you like, or actors that you like, or books that you like. You know, I like Stephen King. A passphrase of his first 3 books, Carrie, Salem's Lot and The Shining, 2 dodecillion years. I have no idea how long a dodecillion is. It's big. Or films, MCU films, or an address. Theoretically, 24 Callang Avenue is the school's address. It's actually not quite, but it's close. 3 trillion years. So if you went with an address, maybe the address you had when you were 5 years old, if you remember it, that'd be good. Or your grandparents' address. Or the address of your best friend when you were 6 years old. Or something like that. It's impossible to crack, and you're never going to forget it. Let's move on from there. The other thing that you can do to protect yourself online is 2FA. Those of you who have Apple devices probably already know what this is. You know, when you try to log into iCloud and you get a buzz saying, "Oi, is this you?" Enter the number. That's 2-factor authentication. Google uses it normally through the YouTube app. So that's the authentication device. Microsoft has its authenticator. Most banks, most big companies, most places use 2FA. If you haven't already done so and it's available to you, turn it on. It will make make someone trying to hack their way through your account to steal your identity, it'll make their job a lot harder. Turn it on if you can. Next up, think about password managers. Now, like you, I struggle to remember passwords. Well, so I use LastPass. This was my personal choice. You might want to use Dashlane, you might want to use 1Password, you might want to use any other password manager. Do a bit of research, decide what's the best password manager for you. The reasons I like LastPass, it's a free service, mostly. It has plugins for Mac, Windows, Android, iOS, and browsers. It's cloud-based, so synchronizing. They claim to be industry standard and so therefore safe. I hope that is true. Best one of all though, it notifies you if one of your passwords has been compromised and gives you a chance to update that password, and that process is automated. It is fantastic. So go back to when I was talking about setting strong passwords. Set 2 strong passwords. The first one is your password manager. The second one will be the email that is the center of your life. The email that you use to log into all of your accounts. For me, that's a Gmail account. So if you have an account like that where everything is based, I log into Facebook through my Gmail, to Instagram through my Gmail, to my Xbox through my Gmail account, and everything else I have as well logs in through my Gmail. That's the center of my life. That's behind a super strong password because I don't want to lose it. Now, let's think about the password manager for a moment here. Here's a sample password. I don't have to remember this or type it, but this is my Facebook password. It's actually not. It's close to it though. I never have to type that. My password manager does it. My Facebook password is like that. My Instagram password is like that. My PayPal password, my bank password is similar to that. I don't know any of these. My password manager deals with all of them. I have kept, for example, my Steam, PSN and Xbox Live accounts out of my password manager in these passwords because they don't synchronize. But other than that, everything else can go straight in because it's easy and I don't have to remember it. All right, let's move on from passwords. Let's think about location services. This is where you are tracked, stalked really, by big companies. Are location services good? Yes, to some extent. Do they need to be on all the time? No, not really. Should you limit its use? Absolutely. And here comes the fun part. How? We're going to look at Google settings first, and they are very difficult. There is no easy way to do this in Google, unfortunately. The way I'm showing you, though, is through a browser. So if you go to your account in Chrome, click on your avatar or your icon, and go to Manage My Google Account. And then you smash on Data and Privacy. And then take a look and scroll down to, oh, isn't that a pretty name? Things you've done and places you've been. That sounds so nice. Stalk you more and stalk you more again. I have this turned off because I don't think Google needs to know where I am all the time. And in fact, I've got a question that I ask myself whenever something wants my location. The question is really simple. What do I get out of this? So for the weather app, for example, I get the weather where I am. That's good. For the Opal Travel app, I get the trains near where I am, leaving when I want them to. That's good. For the My Macca's app, I get advertising stuck at me. That's useless. I don't want that. So go through and decide for each of these, do I need it? Should it be on? What do I get out of it? And if the answer is I get nothing out of it, turn it off. Now, for Android phones, location history is really interesting. This is a screenshot that a student let me grab a couple of years ago, showing all the places that student had been over the last month or two. And there was a lot of them, and it's only a month or two of use. And then there's the trips that you've taken. This was one trip that a student took into Haymarket, and the other end of it is a student's home, which is why I've cut it off. And that is very, very explicit stalking and travel there. I think this is unnecessary. Again, think about it. Ask yourself the question, what do I gain out of this? If the answer is nothing, that's what you gain. Details about everywhere that you have been. Now, turn this on when you go on holidays. Absolutely, because that will give you the memories of where you've been. That'd be brilliant. But when you're just living and working around, no, turn it off. In the iOS version, So yes, what's the big point of this? Well, Google knows where you are, always, and what you're doing, always, and what you do, always. Just about what you think, and can target ads to you and at you to influence your thinking. And they will sell this data to their trusted as anybody who pays, third parties. So if this was a government watching your every move, you would scream blue bloody murder about the Big Brother state and how 1984, which is a good book and you should read, has come to pass. You wouldn't be happy with that level of surveillance from the government. And yet you're happy to say a private company with interests only in profit is allowing that level of stalking on you. That's not good enough. We need to do better. So yes, ask yourself the question, what am I gaining from this? If the answer is nothing, turn it off. Now the same about in iOS. Apple does do their own location stalking. In some ways it's even more frightening. So if you have an Apple device, rip it out now, go to privacy and security, go to settings, then privacy and security, and then location services. Once you're at location services, have a look at all the apps that are using your location. Now this is pumping through really quickly, but you can see all of these apps have permission to use this person's location. Ask yourself of these apps, what do I get from sharing my location? And if the answer is nothing, turn it off. What do you get from having St. George Bank know your location? Nothing, turn it off. Starbucks, you get advertising thrust at you, turn it off. Snapchat, I would seriously recommend you turn off all location services for all social media. That level of stalking is beyond. So I would say turn it off. Whereas things like Waze, which is a travel route planning and travel sharing app, keep it on. Weather, definitely keep it on, because these are important to know where you are at this particular time. Now that was the friendly part. Now look at the next bit. Go into system services, which is down here, bottom right hand side, bottom part, system services. Once you got that open, these are all switched on by default. Turn a few of them off, you don't need them. HomeKit you probably don't use. Location-based alerts is geofencing, keep that on. Location-based suggestions is a polite way of saying ads, turn it off. System customization, turn off. And then look at the scary part. Look at significant locations. That by default is turned on. Significant locations is massively stalky. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that there are 248 records from this person between December 22 and February 23. Well, that's in less than 2 months, 250 locations. Again, this student didn't know this was on and was quite shocked when she saw them. I would say there is no benefit for you to have these on. You get nothing from it. Clear history down the bottom, then turn it off. And if you do, if you do find a benefit for significant locations and there's a reason for keeping it on, please do. But I know of none, so I have it turned off. Now, data privacy in your browser. I'm going to show you the next picture, which is a screenshot from a Firefox plugin called Firefox Lightbeam. I have never seen this for Chrome. Too bad, because it's an excellent bit of kit. It shows the connections between different web pages. These connections are based on cookies that you get planted. This was based on about 3 hours of browsing. Now think about your Chrome browsing history. It probably is years old. So extrapolate what I'm saying here for 3 hours of Firefox browsing compared to years of Chrome browsing. Remember, these cookies are based to target ads at you. Let's have a look. Okay, so each of the bigger icons like JB Hi-Fi and Myer and Target and Kmart, I browse to, and Sydney Morning Herald and CNN. But look at all the little triangles. Each of these little triangles is a tracker. I didn't ask for them. So in my 3 hours of browsing, I visited, in the top left-hand corner, 73 websites. And I'm being tracked by 419 third parties that I did not ask for. That should give you enough idea that there is a lot of stalking going on. And if you also look, there's connections between websites. So from CNN to Gumtree to Guardian to IFLS, there are tracking cookies between these. So that's cross website tracking to get a better picture of who you are, to sell that information, to make better profits, to make better data for third parties who will buy that and increase these people's profits. Again, my question to you is, what do you get out of this? And if the answer is nothing, do your absolute best to limit this tracking. So let's have a look about what happens when you blindly accept all cookies. Here's an example of a cookies preference thing for a website. Well, this website is asking me, do I want performance cookies, functional cookies, and targeting cookies? Because I can uncheck them, I'm turning them off. I can't turn off strictly necessary cookies. There's session cookies and stuff like that. I can't do anything about it, so I keep them on. But I then confirm my choices. So I'm recommending always personalize and always confirm. Don't just blindly accept all. And here's another example from the ABC website. I can either choose to accept all cookies, probably not, or the ABC only required ones. And I've got to choose the ABC ones because I have to choose something. If I close that, I'm tacitly accepting all. So customize and save your settings. Next thing we've got to look at. To limit ad tracking in a browser, throw up a couple of good ad blockers. uBlock is another good one. Adblock is okay. Install them and use them and just let them run to block a lot of crappy ads that you're going to get from tracking cookies. A couple of days ago, a student asked me, what about private browsing? Yes, that's a good idea because whenever you close your browser, the information that is stored from that session will disappear, but it's still worthwhile confirming cookie settings. Avoid clickbait. Now, I know it's very important to determine what kind of cheese you are. And these clickbaity things are annoying as all get out, and all they're doing is data harvesting. You may like things, play this most addicting game or whatever. They're just clickbait. They are literally harvesting all your data, trying to find out more about you, to target ads at you, and to sell that data onto third parties. So when you see sponsored links by Taboola, just ignore. Just ignore. And there are other companies that do the same. Now, last year there were two major data breaches, Optus and Medibank, which was an absolute shame, and it's a big problem that all companies will have to deal with better and more often in the future. The first question, what could you have done to prevent that? And the answer is nothing. What can you do now though, if you're an Optus customer or a Medibank customer and you've done nothing about this? Two things. Number one, change your passwords for these services. And if, like I said, when we're talking about passwords, you use the same password over and over and over again, change all of those passwords. Better still, get a password manager. And seriously, call the companies involved. If you're an Optus customer and you're not happy with the way that they have dealt with you, call them and hold them accountable for your data, for their loss, for their lack of work, but also for your data loss. And what can they do for you? Hold them to account. Next up. What's going to happen next time? There will be a next time. Next time it could be any big company, because this is going to YouTube. I won't mention people by name. But chances are the next big data hack will happen soon, and it will be your data. What can you do? Well, I'd say get a password manager so that when you get the notification company X has been breached, you straight away change that password, and that might save you from some data loss. What else can you do? This might sound a bit weird, but treat your backups really well. I have photos, for example, from when my children were born. I can never get them back if I lose them. So if you pay for iCloud or Google or OneDrive, fantastic, use it well. If you don't, back up your stuff, important stuff, to a couple of hard drives. Remember, they are valuable to you. And please watch out for yourself online. The internet's an awesome place, but there is a lot of people out there who will try and profit from you, profit at you, and more importantly, steal your identity. Now, everything that I've just said comes down to one story very quickly. My sister had her identity stolen. She went to try and get it back and took her birth certificate and her driver's license to the relevant authorities and said, hey, I'm me, I want my identity back. And they said, well, these are compromised, we can't accept them. Now, how are you supposed to prove your identity when the two main documents, and sometimes three main documents, the other could include a Medicare card, to prove your identity have been fraudulently copied? It's extremely difficult and extremely expensive. I know this from firsthand. My sister took nearly 18 months to get her identity back. It was painful, it was stressful, it didn't bode well for her. So yes, use password managers. Yes, use 2FA. Yes, protect yourself online so that hackers and crackers and people who are trying to steal identities can't get your stuff as easily. But most of all, stay safe. Thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate your efforts. Take care, and we'll see you again.